know when you're ready.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our board meeting on Monday, October 27th, 2025. This is our regular business meeting for Columbia School District for the month of October.
Stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mr. Hilberg, good news?
Okay, I'm going to start out with some good news. We're going to highlight one of our programs at Columbia Middle School. Several years ago, in the midst of COVID, we added a STEM enrichment course. And Kristen Hall was hired this last year. We had a transition in that staffing piece. And so she's a new teacher to us this year. But she continues to do some amazing work in there. And I just wanted to highlight some of the things that we've got going on for our enrichment course. You can see some pictures of students building, designing. It really is intended to be STEM. Everything in there is related. So you can see they were building mini golf courses there. I'll show you a skimmer here in a minute, but they were talking about, obviously, laws of physics. We're going through some of those pieces. And I didn't get a picture, but last week they were working on drones and flight, some of those things. So they really try to do a lot of those upper, higher level order thinking skills. And I'm just really excited. I can tell you the kids, it is a amazing class that the kids are just excited to be in. And she's become very popular. But I wanted to show you a quick video. It's in slow motion, so you're not going to hear a whole lot. But this is them testing out their skimmers. Wow. So they're constantly just hands-on, doing all kinds of different activities. Kids, like I said, just have a great time in here. It's been fun to watch them enjoy the work that they're doing in there. So I just wanted to bring that back to your attention. That wasn't too long ago. We added that course, and we're getting a lot out of it. So
Is that middle school?
middle school.
Good stuff. Okay, board operating principle review. I'll do the board if you'll do the superintendent.
Gladly.
Issues which come before the board, board action items. Board, read agenda materials, understand the issues, and be prepared to discuss action items.
Superintendent, use good judgment in determining whether or not an issue needs board action. Provide ample time for the board to read about, study, and debate issues prior to voting. Establish a rationale for each decision. Make decisions consistent with our goals. Communicate the rationale for making a decision that has been superseded by a higher level of authority to those involved before releasing the information. Administrative leaders are expected to be faithful to Columbia School District's overall mission and goals. If we are to lead by example, every act must adhere to our duty to serve students in our district. Being loyal does not mean we always agree. In a dynamic organization, debate and differences in opinion are expected and must be nurtured. We need to foster an open, honest exchange of ideas so that our best thinking is stimulated. However, once a final decision is made, it is our individual and collective responsibility to give full support to its successful implementation.
Thank you very much. Any changes or additions to the agenda?
No changes to tonight's agenda. It'll play out exactly as it is on your agenda in front of you.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Looks like we have 3 items. I'd entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I will second.
Hey, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the 3 items? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? Okay, moving on. Hearing of visitors. Anybody like to address the board? Seeing nobody? Reports and discussions?
All right, I'm going to hand this over to our 3 board reps, and we're going to start with the month of October.
Really sorry for being late. I practiced team dinner and dance tonight, so
Sounds like you were busy.
yes, and I'm sorry I'm wearing jorts. I wore them to school.
Spirit Week.
No, I'm just cool.
Okay. I thought maybe it was a Spirit Week. I was giving you.
Okay, so for sports, girls volleyball, reason I had practice tonight, we actually made districts, which is crazy. We did not have a good record, so, but we made it because they're taking 5 teams this year, so we're playing Goldendale tomorrow. We'll leave at 2:30, I think. I'm hopeful, but I'm not expecting. Girls soccer, I'm pretty sure they ended with a 4-8 record. Did you beat the last team you played? Yeah. Then you had a 4-8 record. They did really well this year. I know 4-8 kind of sounds scary, but I came and watched them play. They did really well, especially for a relatively new program. I think they're doing really well. With football, don't know what their record was, but it's also not over. They have a game, I think got moved to Saturday now. I think they won all the games I went to. I think they're doing pretty well.
7 p.m. Saturday night, first round of crossover playoffs.
Why did they move it?
Yeah.
Because the other team has the choice, traveling team.
Oh.
So you had the choice of Friday, Saturday. Selected.
Winter sports, I'm not sure when they start. There's not a set date for cheerleading tryouts yet, but so we'll have cheer, women's and men's basketball, and wrestling, I'm pretty sure. And a lot of people are really excited for that to start. We had a pep assembly, and it was super duper fun. We did royalty and everything. It was always a good time. I like homecoming assemblies. We had our spirit day, and I think one of the most notable days was dress like a teacher day. And Luke Warcott, dressed as Mr. Alley, had the button up, the flip flops, even drew all his tattoos, and I thought that was really funny. Loved that. And then the teachers participated too, which I love when they participate. Buff volleyball, I actually lost my voice from. That's kind of why I'm sounding a little bit hoarse. I yelled at those boys so much, but they low-key deserve it. So it was really fun though. Sophomores were last, or sophomores won, and then juniors, seniors, freshmen, I think it went. Sophomores low-key had a good team. Brody Shoemaker was spiking the ball on us. It was low-key embarrassing. Powder Puff, the sophomore senior team won. It was really fun though. I also lost my voice from that, but it was really, really fun. I love Powder Puff. Hallway decorating was not as great this year as it has been. I unfortunately could not go, but it kind of shows that only like 3 people went. The seniors, I think, won the hallway decorating. Their hallway was super cute. The theme, I did not tell you, the theme for homecoming was Fly Through Rio, and so it was very tropical paradise. The dance was super cute and decorated. They had like a paper waterfall or I don't know. It was really cute. I had fun. Clubs, FBLA, Soul has been selling bluegrams. Honor Society, I think we're talking about the coat drive right now, I think is what we're discussing. FFA did not get back to me. Neither did FCS. I know Drama Club has a meeting tomorrow. I think D&D meets on Thursdays, I want to say. I will probably have a better report on that next month when they actually do more things.
I'm reporting on the middle school. The girls' volleyball had their pink night. I don't know what it's called. I think it's a pink night. I'm guessing it's a pink night because they have pink shirts. I couldn't get much information about the boys' football because I just found out Mr. Sloan is the coach for that, which is crazy because he's in high school, so I could have easily went to go talk to him. But
It was a long season for the boys' middle school. They were learning each year. It was a growth year, opportunity for growth. But they really worked hard at it this year.
Are they still a combined?
Yes.
7th and 8th?
Yes. As are most everyone in play. Exception with Othello and.
Short.
But, yeah.
Like all the underclassmen are tiny.
the middle school PTO had a dance. My sister went to that. She said it was fun. I think it ended at 8 p.m. That's a good time for middle school. The book fair they made like $100 and something in sales today, which is really good for the middle school book fair because I feel like it's not very active. And then there's Spirit Week going on right now. Today was Pajama Day. I tried to get pictures of that, but nobody takes pictures, I guess. So
I went to visit my mom in the library today and she had PJs on. I didn't say anything. I was gonna let her do her thing, but that makes a lot more sense. I assumed she was running late this morning or something. I was like, okay, like I do that too.
And then ASB had their fall conference on the 30th of September. It was like a leadership practice where they presented in front of other schools. I don't know, they got a banner, so I think that means they did good. Their ASB is fundraising, so they sell snacks at the football games and at the volleyball games, and they're selling spooky grams. There's some pictures. Their spooky grams look really cool. It's like a glove with candy in it, and then they have like a packet that looks like a bat, and they wrap candy bars in it. So it's a cool concept. But that's the middle school. I feel like ASB is the major activity hoster in the middle school. So other than ASB, there's not much.
Is it still Miss Cardoso who's in charge
Yes.
Correct, yeah, she's really doing an amazing job with that
Yeah.
middle school ASB group right
of it? I
now.
think she started when I was in middle school and we got to start doing ASB and I remember it being really fun. She's very supportive. She's very,
She really loves her job.
yeah, she does. She's very like outgoing and like when you have an idea, she does her best to go through with it. She's really cool. I really like her.
Yeah, she really loves when I go down there to ask her about ASB. She's really in love with ASB.
Okay. So the elementary side doesn't have a lot, but I mean I mentioned this last month. The Coyote Buddies, the high schoolers in the leadership class gets to go down and just connect with the I think there's second grade this year, Ms. Swarbal's class, and last week we painted pumpkins with our second graders. And it's just honestly really, really fun. I know I speak from experience. I'm in leadership, and so like, it's just really fun connecting with the little kids and just hear them talk about whatever. Like, they really don't care, and yeah, that it's just a very fun experience. They also had the jogathon. I mean, I feel like everybody knows what the jogathon is, but I got that picture off of Facebook. Because I didn't get the opportunity to go down there. I kind of forgot that was happening.
It's a really nice picture though.
Yeah,
Someone must have taken a really nice
That's
photo
you.
there.
I think.
It's been a super.
Well done. Good job.
Wow.
Superintendent or photographer?
This Thursday is trunk or treat. So, I mean, yeah, like they get to go around the cars and trick or treat, dress up, and I think some of the football players and cheerleaders get to help out with that.
I know my class is doing a booth there too to raise money. I don't know if the other classes are, but I know my class is.
Yeah, and like, it's just, I mean, if you're a high schooler, like going to help out, it's just another way to connect with the little kids and kind of build those connections. And then I didn't get a picture because I saw this on Facebook that the fifth graders got to do bike safety skills in the gym. I don't remember what day that was, but yeah, like they just gathered in the gym and got to like ride bikes and do a bunch of obstacles, just practice being safe and learn how to ride a bike if they didn't know how to before. I think that's really it. I texted my coach and asked Miss Katie or Miss Sloan in the office because I know she has a kid in elementary school, but that's really all that they had going on. But
Is this the second year they've done the bike safety?
Program with the ESD and Mrs. Taylor's.
Taylor presented on that last
She did.
Yeah.
Review of that. We got kids
Time
learning to ride
flies.
bikes. Any questions for our reps?
Thank you.
All right. I know a lot of them have some things they gotta do afterwards, I mentioned, so we got end of the quarter coming up, some things going on, so if you got what you gotta do, feel free. Okay. Your call. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you presenting. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna hand it over, start report. Enrollment and budget status.
Enrollment. Good night.
Okay, enrollment and budget status for October.
So enrollment for October, this includes transitional kindergarten class. We are at 748. So our average is 748.68. Budget status for general fund as of the end of September, we're at 2.1 million. Capital projects fund, we're at 294,000. Debt service fund, we're at 290,000.
So the capital projects, that's just the tech stuff.
Correct. That's the only remaining capital project piece we have going.
Okay, thank you.
ASB fund, we have $185,307 in the private funds. Transportation vehicle fund, $134,535.
Transportation vehicle, transportation director will be here next month to give you some updates on the latest where we're at with depreciation and plans for buses in the future. That'll be next month. Any questions on the financials?
Thank you, Amber. Thank you.
All right, for administrative report, I am excited to hand this over to Beth Harrington, who is our special ed / special programs director. That's a lot of responsibility. All our special programs, state and federal programs. She oversees a lot in our district, and I've asked her to come talk to you, just give you a very brief update on what's going on concerning special programs across our district.
Thank you for having me here tonight. I am excited to share some things that have been happening in special programs. I'm going to hit a few of the highlights. We'll start with special education. So one of the great things that happened last year was the high school was recognized by the state for growth in students in special education. And I think that's a reflection of the dedicated staff and their hard work. It's pretty amazing. Some implementations we have in special education. We have implemented a platform called Goalbook. And Goalbook is a platform that helps teachers write standards-based goals at grade level for kids that are measurable and student-centered. And they're able to adapt those goals. So if a child was reading, if they're a 9th grade student reading at a 4th grade level, they can take that standard from their grade level and adapt it for them. So we're not dropping the bar for them, we're keeping it held high. We've also implemented a new pre-referral process, and that is to ensure the kids are receiving targeted intervention before they're referred to special educations. We want to make sure that in the classroom, once we identify an issue, that we target that, we make sure we're intervening, we do everything we can, and we have a data-driven process for a special ed referral. Okay, our English language go ahead.
Questions along the way? Is that okay?
I'm sorry?
Questions along the way?
Of course, of course.
So the pre-referral, how does that happen?
So it doesn't necessarily have to happen for everybody. Part of this is it came about because in 2028 we will be required by the state to have a pre-referral process for anybody who is identified as a specific learning disability. It's really just good practice and best practice to have a pre-referral. So let's say that we have a student struggling with reading. A lot of times we see in the spring that we get a ton of referrals because these students have gone through school and now they haven't made the growth that we want. So let's refer them for special ed because that will fix them. But that isn't the fix. What we really want to do is be monitoring that data throughout the year, and we want to intervene early so that we're seeing there is an issue on the iReady, we can intervene, provide an intervention, monitor that for 6 to 8 weeks, and if it's not working, adjust. And then we can show a pattern of if students aren't succeeding, we have tried all of these different interventions and we're not seeing growth, that's a student that could potentially be eligible for special education.
So does the referral come From the district, a teacher, a parent? How does the referral get generated?
From anywhere. Anybody can refer a student to special education. Now, there's going to be special cases where if a student needs special education services and it's quite evident, we're gonna skip and go right to the process. But what we wanna do is make sure we have something in place just to mitigate those, the students who are not achieving at grade level, so that everybody doesn't become a special ed referral. Because a lot of times we'll test them and they don't qualify because they don't have a cognitive disability and they don't have a disability, because you have to have the 3 prongs. But we should be setting up more interventions sooner. So it might look like you qualify for the lab class. And if you're going through the lab class and they're doing everything and you're not progressing, then we want to look at that data and then refer them. And then we have a whole lot to go on as well.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question fully?
It did. Yes.
It's setting up a lot of foundational pieces, both academically and behaviorally, to track this, rather than waiting till we get to that spot where we're pulling our hair out saying, what's going on here? And then the only option is to do this, right? She's developing a plan and a program where you go about this and you begin tracking that, talking about things we've been talking about, the programs and all the things we have with the data, the components, things like that, to begin really tracking trial and error of these. What's working, what's not working, because we don't want the answer to always be sped, right? We want the answer to be for them to flourish and for us to find those things that we can do before we get to that. The special education should be our last option so we go through this. So part of that piece is helping navigate where is it that they need help. Can we find that function that can help address them prior to going down that road?
Who's made aware of the pre-referral?
Special education teachers, the principals, and the teachers through the principals. And it's new this year, so it's kind of a hit and miss. We're gonna see how it goes. The psychologist also has a piece in that, so if people bring him questions or bring us questions, we say, well, what have you tried? Let's sit down and talk about it. We can have a pre-meeting, look at where the students are at that time, and help with interventions to see if we can get that child moving along.
Are the parents made aware of it?
Oh, yes, absolutely, yeah. Yeah,
It
anytime
doesn't
there's,
happen without parents.
yeah, they're part of the team always. Yeah, sorry. Absolutely. Okay. Okay, our English language learners, we have implemented Lexia English. This is our 2nd year of the Lexia English Language Development Program. It's platform-based and it's geared for little kids. It's a K-8 program. So we're seeing in our data that it is geared for those little kids because we have great engagement in the elementary and we see growth within those domains. But as we get to middle school, 6th grade hangs with it pretty well. 7th and 8th grade are pushing back. And so we are coming up with the paper lessons that are the same lessons, but we're doing small group instruction on paper to bring up that engagement for our middle school students who are a little bit older and kind of backing out from that platform base. There's avatars that are kids, and so by the time they get to middle school, they're not having that.
Sure.
So, we also have contracted with Language Link. Language Link is a service that we can call if we need an interpreter. We always use our staff first, but if we run into a meeting or if a parent comes through the door and we don't have anybody to translate for us or interpret for us, we can call them on the phone and have an interpreter right there. And so we can communicate better with our parents.
Free of charge?
I wish.
You
No,
get charged by the call.
Yeah, it's charged
It's a
by the
service.
call. And I can tell you, for this year, we've just implemented it, but we've spent less than $50 on it so far. So it's there if we need it. It doesn't cost us anything to hold on to it. So it's just a good backup if we don't have an interpreter for parents.
It's important to make sure we serve those students when they come in, to capture them while they're there. So it's something that we've been thinking about, trying to work on, that we knew we could do a better job with. And this is just another avenue or option for that.
Okay, some highlights from our LAP program. The middle school was recognized by the state as well for closing gaps, and that was a comprehensive support. So that's the entire school, but I just want to put in a shout out for the LAP program because they do an amazing job. All of them work well together. The LAP teacher really does a fantastic job of supporting those kids that are kind of hanging on, not quite grade level, but almost there. They're doing a great job.
And just a reminder, we're talking about being recognized. This is the State Board of Education being recognized based on their stated tests. This is not any of the diagnostic stuff we talk about. This is the state test stuff we put through. So those two groups that were recognized, that was due to our state testing piece.
And so we're really proud of them because they did a pretty amazing job. We also use LAP funds to support our MTSS and PBIS implementation for all 3 buildings. For the elementary school, we provided LETTERS training. LETTERS it stands for Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. And what it is a really in-depth, deep dive into how do you teach kids how to read and write. And so our K2 teachers have had that. They are just starting the second part, which is this final part this year, and they'll be finishing that up. That will also be LAP funded. And then for our high school, they provided a summer school for students, and the students were able to retrieve some credits. So if they were credit deficient, they got to come on in and work on their credits over the summer. And that's it. And if you have any questions or want more details, just let me know.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Beth. If there are no questions, I'm going to move on to our next report. All right, so I'm going to follow up on our professional development. I'm on 8.5, review of waiver day training on schedule. A reminder, early this month, Friday, October 3rd, 2025, we had the first of our 2 waiver days. Reminder, we put a waiver out to the state board to excuse one of our 180 days for professional development. And so activities, kind of want to give you a quick update of what we're working on so you know what we're doing on those days off, so with students. The majority of the activities centered around new district conference expectations. You guys know that we're looking at doing conferences district-wide, which also includes high school this year. We are asking to conference with every high school student, regardless of where they're at credit-wise and grade-wise, because we're really trying to push the pieces you're going to see with the high school and beyond plans, which is post-secondary planning. This will start as early as middle school, as required by the state. We're really just kind of upping our game there to engage students and families. Not that you have to decide what you're going to be when you're a 7th grader, because we understand kids will change their mind 20 or 30 times between now and then, right? But it's how are your courses preparing you for what you want to do, whether that's military, trade, workforce, college, apprenticeship, you name it. We're going to begin embedding those conversations, and we're asking parents to come to the table with those and have those conversations with as we team and partner with those pieces. So you're going to see us begin working on that, not this fall. Those will start this spring. This fall, we just want to get into the groove of getting used to doing a conference and everyone having that to become second nature to our secondary students. We did some additional parent squared training. That's obviously still a work in progress. Hopefully you're seeing a lot more communication from us on just all kinds of things. So we need to continue to do better, just reaching out to folks and trying to engage them. So we did some additional parent squared trainings for staff on reaching out with their individual posts to parents. Swiss Student Behavior Review. This is the work you've been hearing us do, but we're kind of taking that to the next level for the MTSS. We're actually looking at our students' Tier 1 and Tier 2 kind of behaviors. Primarily it's Tier 1 we're focusing a lot on, but this is all students. As we look at our behavior expectations and refine our systems, we've got that point where we've kind of got our pieces down. Now we're looking at the data to see what's the impact, what are we doing, and how are the things that we're doing working, or what do we need to adjust? It's fun to watch your Tier 1 teams. On that day, I was actually down there. You can see Jillian's group down at the bottom, Mrs. Robillard at the elementary. I watched a group of adults, both teachers and classified, literally make, just in a span of 5 minutes, about 5 different decisions. Hey, when they come back, this is what they're going to shift and do based on the data sets and what they're going to do, whether it's a reteaching piece, doing something. And it was fun to watch our classified staff be empowered, saying, okay, this is an issue for us outside. Hey, we're going to lead the trainings because we're the ones out there doing that stuff. So it's really fun to kind of watch them step up and take ownership, really be partners in the work that we're doing on that. We reviewed, obviously we have some new behavior rules and laws with some RCWs, so that's still where we're working with staff on how those things play out. And as we move from Tier 1 to Tier 2, we kind of talked about Tier 2, or Tier 1 being all students. We've got those systems, we're analyzing those. we're building those next steps of those small groups. We kind of said we'll keep working through those, and we've got pieces where we're looking at components and who are those students, how do we identify those for those specific supports. We're continuing to lean into that work. So just know the work's continuing and it's ongoing. It's fun to watch unfold, but we are busy and going at a frantic pace. So it's time well spent. Any questions on that? Just want to give you a very quick update, okay? Moving on, if you don't mind, let me just jump straight into policy. So policy, I'm gonna have you take a look and just, so there are a total of 1, 2, 3, 10 policies I'm bringing to you. 2 slides. I want you to notice the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 policies. We've grouped all of these into the first slide because it all has to do with, if you look at top, the House Bill 1296, talking about promoting a safe and supportive public education system. So because of that House bill, they rewrote those components of those 6 policies. Now, traditionally, I bring you just what used to be essential and is now deemed critical, but there are 2 that I wanted to bring to you when I dove deeper in it. I wanted to bring to you in terms of the 1000 series, because that's the oath of office and ethical conduct for board members. They listed those as discretionary and important. I wanted to make sure those were brought to your attention because the oath of office has to do with truly when you do your oath of office post election. They've added some new language in there. And then the policy on ethical conduct for board members. Again, there's some minor changes in that, but having to do with the same House bill up there. This is a first reading, not a second reading, so you'll have an opportunity to dive deeper into that. But I want to bring this to your attention. Are there any questions on these ones before we move on? The second ones involve, you can see 2 that were critical. With the evaluation of superintendents, they changed the law, so they talked about some of those pieces there. I'll work with you on that. And then there's a health-related plan with students with the insufficiency there with policy 3425. Career technical ed and the recruitment pieces, those were 2 pieces that weren't required, but I really liked the language and thought it benefited us, and I wanted to add that language in there. The first one had to do with an RCW to make sure we were just up to date with the law. The second one was really about recruitment and selection, and that really just goes and rewrites and puts things that's really, which is by our document we have, it talks really about the superintendent overseeing and having the primary responsibility of that recruitment and selection of those pieces. So it fits with what we're already doing. You have any questions on policy?
I probably will, but I'll dress them off.
In between or before our second reading? Okay. Okay, moving on to 10.1, EP&O levy, capital levy rates. So we have 3 tasks we need to complete tonight, okay? So we're moving on to new business. So I'll be looking for action on a couple of items. The first one is to finalize the 2026 EP&O levy rate. This is critical. We do this each year when we have to set that final levy rate. So I'll walk you through 3 options for that. The next 2 will be looking forward at our next EP&O and capital technology levy request. So I'll kind of walk you through that. Knowing that following tonight, once we take action, next month in November 24th, I will actually bring the resolution. So what you're giving me tonight is action to go away and develop the resolutions to bring those back to you a month from now to actually pass those resolutions.
You're just looking for consensus tonight.
Consensus, yep. All right, so what I want to talk to you about, reminder, is we talked about this in September, that you can see up top in green is the voter-approved levy passage rate. Okay, so I want you to look at that and see, you can see where it starts. I dated all the way back to 2012. That's where we passed our levy rates at 368. And then you can see in 2016, we dropped it to 330. And since then, we've passed it at 330 all the way along. So our voters have approved that tax rate for the EP&O levy at 330. You can see the actual tax rates that we collect at below in black underneath that, and those were based on rules and regulations done at the state. You can see, if you're probably the biggest one you have a question about is 2019. That's when the state, following the post-McCleary, made a level, that levy switch that actually limited what we could collect locally. And then based on that, it's just based on an enrollment number. So that's why you see the fluctuation in that. But our voters have approved to allow us to collect up at that 330 level since 2016. So what's due this year and next year in 2026? Beginning 2026, I talked about this last month, that per pupil limit increased by an inflation of $500. This was not proposed locally. This was not the state level. You can see this was done to a House bill. That's where they allowed you to collect locally. So because of that, we have to go back and, as we do with every year, make a decision on what that tax rate will look like for us. So I'm going to just walk you through this very briefly. The decision we have to make tonight is down here in yellow, okay? But let me walk through this so you understand what all these numbers are telling us. This is obviously the year, the assessed value. We don't have to worry about the bonds. We no longer have a bond on here, okay? This is the historical. It says M&O, assessed value. M&O is the old language for EP&O, right? But this is our assessed value. You can see right here, and you can see what the M&O levies rates were. You can see the levy amounts. We'll get to this one later this is involving Andrew, capital projects, so this is not what we're talking about right now. But the total levy rate is the combined of all of these pieces. But what I'm asking you about right now is just this rate right in here. So you see if we go down to the 2026, I told you that we have a voter approval to go to 330 at this point. But because of our enrollment, I talked about, you get that lesser of that, you're not allowed to collect that full amount, and that's at the state, it caps you at that. So we have three different options right here. Based on right here, the 2026, what we'll call max, which would be based on that latest legislative change. If we want to collect that max amount, which what we passed at 330, the max amount it would allow us to collect would be here at this $2.17 here. Over here, I'll talk to you about what this means for someone with a home. The mid-level, if you want to take, like not the max, but somewhere right in the middle, right here, would collect it at $1.98. And if we went with just level where we were currently at $1.93. So if you work over here, the average home prices in our area, if you did like a Zillow mid-home search, about $450,000 for that average house. You can see what that is here. Based on what they're expecting for inflation, working with Corey Plager, this is because we're talking 2026. That average home that used to be $450, next year's gonna be $495, based on that average house value. So you can see what that means and what that would mean to a payment per month, okay? So basically, I'm gonna go back to this and say, thoughts, questions, ideas on three different options. One being the max amount, the voter approved piece, mid or level amount with this last year. Before we jump into any, I think, let's go through, are there any questions? You wanna hash any of this out? Yes, and by the way, sorry, I should have said that. I gave you a handout for you to look at right there. Thank you.
So we're currently collecting the $2.03.
Yes. For 2025, 203, so you can see that at 2025, that's what that looks like. And really, the number you should look at is in red next to it, the 2.5 million. That's that total collection amount.
So if we're to collect the max,
So the difference between what we're currently collecting and the max would be, you can see it's a little over $400,000 difference.
so a monthly is $13.21, right?
For that average size house. Could be more, could be less, yes.
So that's $158 a year.
The max. Keep in mind, I know that we have to go back and do this every year. This is part of our resolution. We would have had to have done this even if they hadn't done this. So because our 330 rate requires that rollback that we don't collect because they don't allow you to collect that max piece, you still have to go through the same process. So we're not doing this just because of that. We would have had to have gone through this process regardless. Anyone have any thoughts, feelings, questions? You feel strongly about something, or you want to poke and prod, have other questions about this?
I believe we've got a couple of projects that I don't know how we're gonna get to them unless we do something like this.
Projects we've talked about in the past is the water underneath the middle school, the original 1950s piece on that. The other projects we've discussed at that would be the high school bleachers. We've seen what those look like, and those need a little bit of a upgrade.
They're dangerous. They're getting dangerous.
Yeah, so there are some certain things that we would certainly look at if we wanted to look at doing that. That is a way to ascertain the funds to fix those things.
Do you anticipate any other mechanism to get any of that kind of work done? Besides going out for a bond or a capital project?
We could certainly go out for another capital levy. I mean, but then again, you're going back out to the voters for that. I mean, we're not getting more money for students anytime soon on that. Outside of that, it's scrimping and saving, and you build that over time, but, you know, that takes a while to do projects of that nature. So, we have a mechanism to do that and the flexibility to do that. Haley, any thoughts? You lean in one direction, the other?
I'm leaning towards collecting it at the max. I mean, our voters approved us collect at even a higher rate, correct?
Correct.
Another $1.30, 20-something cents.
Yeah. I don't think it's.
Dad, any thoughts?
I'm just digesting these a little bit. The difference, so the M and O levy, that's what we actually collect, right?
Correct.
2.5 million.
Yeah.
So that boosts us the max, is that 400,000?
Yeah, so the difference, if you did that, this is what we're collecting here, that's what we would collect. Between that and that. If you did the max. If you did the mid, you can see it's somewhere closer to that. If we did the flat,
Is the assessed value official?
that is the best number we can get through Corey. He is working with the county. All I can tell you is he's working with many schools. He's working with us, he's working with College Place. He has spoken with them, and they are giving him their preliminary numbers, it's 2026. But what you'll see when I get into the next one is that assessed value piece on that. There are some numbers that, obviously, that it changes. We don't have, I'm kind of getting ahead of us, but I'll get into that later. You're gonna see that assessed value is going up quite a bit in 2026. That's a predicted number right now. We've looked into that. We don't have a lot of new construction going on here. So we're asking that question, where is that? You know, for me, that tells me that's in people's value, homes value, stuff like that, because we don't have a whole lot going on out there. I know there's a lot of people talking about development, but actual development right now, we don't have it right now.
I guess all I'm thinking is as people see their property taxes, they have the approved rate, we collect lower. If we raise the rate, they're gonna notice that, I'm assuming, right?
Potentially.
And then we're gonna go for a levy
February.
in February. I think what the average citizen here in our community would prefer. Would they like us to collect that and use it, or would they prefer we keep it as it is?
$1 million question.
Yes.
I think what's gonna show up on the assessment bigger than anything is assessed value.
Going up, yeah. Yeah, and some of that's education with our community as well, right? As far as what these real rates are that we're charging.
There's a lot of education that's gonna have to go on. Regardless of how any of this goes, there's gonna be a lot of education on it. In fact, I mean, I'll just jump ahead because we can come back just to answer some of that. When we look at that, I'm gonna go to this, the numbers that we're using to predict and project based on that. When he's talking with the county right now, the best numbers he can get, these are the financial folks in front of us doing this work. we're looking at almost 11% assessed value growth rate, right? So you start playing that out, they're gonna see that growth anyways. They're gonna see that assessed value, you know, looking at that anyways. So that's gonna be a product of that. You could, sorry, I went way back too far. Computer's trying to catch up, sorry. This is, again, what they approved, what we've been collecting. The $1 million question, as you said, is where we go here on this one, those bottom numbers on that one.
Why did the rate go up that last year on that graph you just showed us?
On the one, what we actually collected, it's dependent on your enrollment. So our enrollment goes up because you collect that lesser of that. In order to collect that full 250, you gotta have a student body of about roughly 40,000 students. We're not even close to that. So we collect at the 330, we're capped at the 250, which is what we cap at, but we have to collect less because our enrollment's less than that. So there's an enrollment factor based on that, which is why you see it's not consistent. What's that?
You said it makes it even clearer.
Yeah.
Why did it go up to 204 from 193? Because of assessment?
Because of your enrollment.
Because of enrollment, right?
Yep. The 150 and the 250 were mechanisms of our legislators. We had no control over that. That happened in Olympia. That was done to everyone across the state.
Go back to that,
Which one?
the one you were just on. So. I was gonna say, did anybody come in and have conversations with you when it went from the 193 to 204?
No.
When I have conversations, the general questions are on assessed value, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I assume,
Unfortunately, we don't have any control over that, but there is an assumed piece on that.
but I think their misconception is they believe the rate stays the same. And so their taxes go up based upon the assessed value increase, and our rates don't go down or up. That our dividend or our collection is a fixed amount, right? Yeah, what are we determining here?
Well, it is and it isn't, right? And so I'm gonna get to that, complicate that with Andrew's piece, because that's a separate piece. The enrollment does have a slight factor on it, because we're the lesser of that too, but when we get something to the capital levy, you know, that's gonna complicate that. It is an absolute fixed rate, and it doesn't matter what that assessed value does. We don't collect any more by doing that. We lock in at that, and whether your assessed value goes up $100,000 for that capital levy or not, doesn't change what we collect. That's where we start to get in the weeds on some of these things. And I was trying to keep it just simple as possible, but I wanna make sure you understand what that is. The crux of it really is, we have three choices: the max, mid, level. Those are the three I put in front of you. Max being, if you feel we have the obligation, we pass what the voters passed. If that's your piece, that, you know, they said, you know, you pass that, then you go to the max. If you're at level, let's just maintain. We're gonna be ultra cautious, you know, that's where you go. Or if you're somewhere, hey, I wanna go right in the middle of that somewhere. We're not being cautious, but we're not going out for the max either. I gave you an option right square in the middle.
I guess the way I see it a little bit is, so if we're at 2.5, and we either want 2.7 or 3 million, what would we be doing with those extra funds? Do we have a specific assignment, in a sense, another 225,000?
I think Brad asked that question earlier, what would we do with that? You'd start with the projects. You'd start with the water. You fix that there. We're still working on quotes for that. If you fix those bleachers 3 years ago, that was $103,000. So you gotta probably figure that's at least $120,000 to $150,000 right there. The things we've talked about, whether that's fencing, Andrew's gonna talk about that possibly through, I'm sorry, fencing is me, through some fencing. There's some safety fencing I wanna put down at the elementary to keep our students from crossing. So I have a list of projects we could certainly put out there. That begs Brad's question, when am I gonna have enough money to do those? We just have to save up. We have to wait, you know, we could wait till we get to the end of the year, budget year. I talked to Amber, put money aside, we began talking about. The primary purpose of that, though, when you put those aside for capital projects, if Sean were here, he'd be telling you, that's the carpet, that's the paint, that's the floor, that's those things that you do. So that's really what you're doing for those pieces. For projects type pieces, typically you either gotta fund it like this, or you're gonna go out for a second capital levy, if you wanna take on a project like that.
Haley, you've kind of put your cards on the table. I mean, where are you at, Thad? Undecided?
Undecided. My other question, so we're looking at less than $500,000. We have a fund balance over 2 million. Why would we not use that? 400 and some thousand out of that. Still keeps us clear of our fund balance requirement.
I think 8%.
Yeah.
What's the projected ending fund balance? Is it? So we're showing 11 now, but
What does the 8% come out to?
I think that's the
The
last.
1.4?
Yeah.
So that's. We've been
Keep
over,
us at the,
what's that?
keep us at the balance we're at right now.
The 1.4 is the 8%, right, Amber, so we're talking about?
Or using all that money then? I'm just saying, because we've been at 2.1 last 4 years. So that's one of my, where we have excess funds, I guess, a little bit.
Oh, you mean for the okay, the blip, I see.
There's 700,000 there. Above the 8%.
I guess why I'm asking that is because do we take money from there or we ask for more here? I guess that's what I would say is can we take any from here first before we go ask for more?
Yeah, what would?
I guess where I fall out on it is we already asked for this money, and they granted it. Now, because of our enrollment and some decisions made at the state level, we're actually able to collect it. Because the voters approved us to collect at 330. Because that's what we ran year after year.
To answer your question, Thad, once we lock in at that 2026, we lock in for that year, right? That will complete the last 4-year cycle of that levy. We're on year 4 of, we've completed 3 and we're setting that 4th year. What we do next after we make this decision is to set those parameters for that next set of levies coming out after that. We certainly could look at that a year from now, but once we set in, we submit that to the county and that's what they collect for the year 2026. So 26 is done. You could revisit that at 27, provided the voters pass that at this next levy piece.
Not to disagree with you, but I realize our voters approved that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many voters really understand that
Yeah.
they approved at 330. And they even understand we've been collecting around $2.
No, and I'm sure they don't understand that we have been under collecting
If,
for years.
let's say the state would allow us to collect the 330.
Well, I guess I want to say it the other time, under collecting, yes, but remember when they did that shell game, they instituted a new state tax, right? So they're still collecting a tax on that, right? So it's I mean, on that specific M&O levy, we got a number said you can't go up to that certain number now because they're going to collect that with that new state tax piece. So
I guess what I was gonna say is, if we say we could go to 330, because that's what's approved, I think you'd have a few people in your office. Do you think?
I think there are certain people that pay attention to those pieces. I think there's people within our community that would probably notice that. But to go from that to 330, let me go back to this, where we were at. Yeah, because I think you're asking me if we went from a little over $2 to the full 330, I think it's gonna catch someone's attention. But we're talking about going from 203 to either 183, 198, or 210, or 217, you know. Some people will notice. I don't know if that's gonna generate, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't see that generating, trying to come up with the right word.
So if we were to ask you what kind of heartburn would arise if we wanted to spend 400,000 out of the general fund, what kind of anxiety would that give you? I mean, maybe, I know it's kind of putting you on the spot, but
Out of our current fund balance?
Um,
I'm looking at Amber.
So, keep in mind, so where we budgeted on the low end, right? So we're gonna see that drop for a little bit, right? Because we budgeted conservatively on that. We'll eventually replace that later in the year, once the other side of that comes out post-January. But my anxiety, where you'd ask me right now, is 75 to 80% of our budget is salaries. So we just finished negotiating our latest salary piece. Peace of mind for me would be one budget cycle, working through that latest salary piece. That would make me feel a lot better and confident telling you about that. I'm not entirely confident. I'm glad we have that room to spare, you know, for this last year coming out of that out of that negotiation piece.
are you any more comfortable in the middle of the road, Dad?
Yeah. I'm more comfortable there, and I guess if I'm asking for $400 and some thousand, I'd wanna know exactly where it's going. And it's like slightly, I know we have rough numbers and we have projects that are signed, but we're asking for the money, or I didn't realize this takes time, but then we're gonna find out what we're gonna spend it on.
Yeah.
I'd rather go the other way. I'd rather have, if we had 3 projects lined up for $450,000 and it was A, B, and C, and it was $425,000, I would be more excited to select the max.
I believe, Todd may disagree, but I believe we're gonna be up around 350,000 for those 2 projects. So we're almost there.
And I think there's things we've talked about that were put off because we didn't pass levies.
So if I was to work on projects, top projects I'd work on based on capital pieces. I've talked about the bleachers, we've talked about that, we know that's a safety issue. We've talked about the water, it's gotta get done before underneath, you know, the middle school on that one. There's some student safety pieces that would,
Elaborate on that just a little bit. That's a big project,
which one?
the water.
So underneath the middle school, last spring, I kinda talked to you guys about it, we've got 3-inch steel piece, it's part of the old early 50s piece that goes underneath the middle school. They have to get to it through the shop, there's a chaseway you crawl into, but it's the old original infrastructure that has the hot water and circulatory stuff that runs that middle school piece. Because the original stuff from don't quote me on anywhere from 51 to 53, what we're having to do is they've been down there, we've had like 24-hour plumbing, emergency plumbing come out of all the corners because the water hammer and everything, those pipes from there are literally rusting from the inside out. And we're getting the pinholes, you know, that are going in there, and we're getting water underneath those on there. So we've got to get someone to go down and basically replace that, the main water infrastructure from the original 1950s. The rest of the stuff, the latest is kind of our 1980s stuff after that, the middle school, the elementary. Stuff at the high school, plumbing still, 2095, what is the number, give me the high school? High school?
What about it?
High school remodel?
Yeah, 2001.
2001, okay. So, and some of that stuff's there. So the biggest piece on those is is the water infrastructure at the middle school and that. If you gave me another project, I've always been, and this is, you go back to the levy that didn't pass, we have bathrooms in the middle school gym that are not ADA compliant. If you go into those bathrooms these are community ones, not the student ones, but you got those two community ones. We have to leave that middle school building open to access to our community because we can't get a wheelchair in those bathrooms. That was between a $40,000 to $70,000 remodel 3-4 years ago. So, I mean, there's three right there, not even touching. If Andrew gets on his stuff, starts talking about, which he'll talk about with technology, cameras. A big thing is our new door pieces. We want to do access, improve our door hardware for security pieces. But we can look at that through some other pieces. But those would be ones I'd take right away.
So maybe we do middle of the road, 250,000, is that what it roughly was for the middle of the road?
From 2.5 million to 2.75, about a little over 200, let's call it $220,000 difference.
With our eye on those two big projects, and if we need to dip into our,
We target the bleachers and the water, and any remaining funds we pull out of the fund balance.
I mean, just, it's an option, just trying to get there.
I like that. Maybe you guys can go the other way.
I'm good with that. I think I know where Todd's at. You know, I kind of pressed him into a corner and
Brad asked me earlier, said, where would I be if I forced me to get on the fence? I liked our mid option. Mid option gives us the additional dollars to collect for the capital projects that we haven't been able, we've failed twice to collect for projects. It doesn't go to the max, still shows we're being responsible for voters, trying to maintain that as best we can, knowing we've got a levy coming up somewhere in there. So it's in the middle of the road on that.
And that's actually with the different assessed value, we're gonna be collecting at a lower rate, is that the way I see that?
The level, the first one,
No, the middle one. Does it
the
go
middle
from
one, it's just mid, so that's the one I was in.
1.98?
Right there, 1.98.
Sorry, I'm looking at the total.
And we're collecting 2.05 right now?
2.035, and the difference is because that assessed value.
So our rate is actually going to go down.
Dropping for the EPNO, assuming the AV assessed value does what it does.
What if you do that right there, 2.035? That's not one of your options. So instead of 1.989,
Mm-hmm.
change it to 2.035.
Corey can run me any number I want, so you're basically saying go in, lock in, just at that same
Is that
rate.
where we're at?
Get you a little bit more, but not going to 217.
So that's just maintaining our current M&O rate.
I think that's
It's an option I didn't bring to you,
pretty
but
decent sell if you have to.
at that point, it truly is just assessed value.
I don't know what extra that gets you.
I'll bring it back to you in a resolution if that's what you want.
Looks like you have consensus. Bring it back at the 2.035.
Make it 4 or 5, whatever you want.
I'm just gonna match it then, that get in the notes 2.035.
Good.
Okay, to be earmarked towards specific projects, bleachers, water, anything remaining, fund balance. Okay. All right,
Put that on a billboard. Trying to upgrade some of these projects, we got more to come. I don't know how we sell that
I know.
we need a bond.
It doesn't help us when our taxes or assessments keep going up.
But those are nice visible things. They're not,
Yeah, I think,
doing blacktop.
I
and those
do
kind of things where
think-
it's hard to sell.
I don't know how many of you were at,
And then
what
water.
school was that we went to last year for a playoff game? And they had it spelled out on their, it was like,
you showed me
hey,
that.
you see this? This is what your bond money went to. And it was amazing.
Okay.
I think that's something we need to think about because a lot of people don't.
That'll come up in February, so.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Okay, so we finished our first of three. Okay. Coming back to this. Now, we're gonna move on to the next 4 years, okay? So our current, I'm just gonna go very briefly, because I'm gonna move quick on this. To understand, our current EP&O, educational programs and operations, capital levy. Again, this is the years, that shows we went out to a vote on that date. Assessed value, this is all passed, so these numbers are locked in. We know what these numbers are, right? That was our EP&O, what we collected, what that rate was. Now, we're gonna have a conversation about this rate and this rate, okay? Just note that the EP&O levy and capital project levy amounts, notice the totals and the rates. Also, you can see that the relationship to total tax rate versus the assessed value, see how one goes up, the other changes with that. So, I'm gonna move quickly, sorry, I just wanna make sure we understood the game. So, you also have the second handout in front of you. What I'm gonna ask is, first thing, EP&O levy. We're looking at a 4-year, we've run 4-year levies in the past, I'm assuming we'd stick to the same thing. That would bring us up to a February election, a 4-year. That would begin in January of 27 through December 30th, giving you basically 3 different options. Okay, and I'm gonna start with here and work our way back. So I'm gonna start with scenario 3. Scenario 3 would have been hypothetically, if we're gonna go out and just say, look, we're gonna ask for the same rate, keep passing that same 330 that we've always done. Okay, so that was that green number up top that was at 330, and we just say, we're gonna keep asking for that number, showing everyone we're maintaining that number at the 330. That's what it would collect. That would be your rate. This is just status quo, what we've asked for in the past. Okay? If you want to look at option number 2, which is the old levy lid. So this was roughly pretty close to where we were at the last point in time with the EP&O amount here with that tax rate. So that's like, hey, we want to stick to pretty close to where we were with this one. That's the old levy lid, and scenario 1 is the maximum levy lid. This one would be taking that number, that new number, and instead of doing the 330, actually locking in at what they believe that maximum levy lid would be. Is that making sense between this one? This is the one we've always asked for, the 330, but this one's actually taking that 330 and putting it right here at where we actually think the state would be locking us in at. So this would be educational programs. Reminder, these are jobs, these are people, these are teachers, these are assignments, this is all athletics, this is where all our extracurricular, all that stuff, some of those pieces comes in. Sorry. The easy one for me, if you're gonna ask where have we been, what have we always done, we go out to our folks at the 330. That's what we've done since I showed you. I went too far, sorry. Right there, that's what we've done since 2016. We go out and we talk to them about that rate, and that's what we've passed since 2016. Thoughts on or questions on just the EP&O? First one, we're just looking at educational programs. Looking at this number, and this number. Now, the thing is on this, if you're looking at this and trying to look at the total tax rate, you gotta remember this is a bit of a misnomer because we don't collect that whole tax rate. We have that rollback every year. So if you're looking at that and that scares you, we don't collect that full 360. That's why we have that rollback in there. But it gives us the opportunity to have those conversations just like we just had. Do we want to take advantage of it? Do we not want to? These would be locking in close to those actual numbers.
Any advantage to those top 2? Scenario 1 and scenario 2? Why locking it in at the lower rate, below the 330?
This was more of a number, if we decided, I would have told you, if we decided on the last one to maintain where we were just at, not, in fact, drop our rate, this would have been like the option we probably would have went with, right? Just maintaining that lower number. But we're already moving up slightly, so I think we either go, just based on what we've already done, we either move to this one or this one. I still like this here. This gives us the flexibility to have that, but that's where I would sit on this one. I mean, if you're asking my opinion on it, I like the 330. It gives us the ability to be nimble. If we were to come into a crisis, it at least allows us to have that conversation and come to the table. That was always the option of, do we want to have the ability to be nimble? We can decide not to do anything, or we can decide to make that decision.
Thoughts?
Your thoughts?
I don't know. It puts us in these weird situations by doing the 330. I get it, it works, but you know, here we are wrestling with the opportunity of being able to go collect it, and we're still not doing it.
That's a fair statement.
So which one do you like?
I liked scenario 3.
330?
Yeah, I liked it just because it allowed us the flexibility for that. But your point is well taken. I can understand why you'd say, I certainly wouldn't at this point go with scenario 2. Let me tell you that based on the decision we made at this point. But if we wanted to look at scenario 1, you're locking in at that maximum levy lid. That is based on those numbers. Anywhere from 227 to 234. We would just be going to the voters, telling them, look, instead of going out with that 330, we're locking in what we believe those actual rates are. That ends any of the future conversation, debate about what those are. And if that maybe is music to our community's ear, we know exactly what that number is, then there's no debate on that.
So districts that were locked in at the lower rate, and with the state changing the rules, they were not able to go back and do
No,
anything.
so that's the one risk you do. Now, but keep in mind, at the 330, we're the anomaly. There's not many out there that are still doing this. So let me tell you, we are the anomaly. Most people have locked in at what that actual rate is below. They've done that. But at the same time, we're also only a handful of districts right now that are allowed to have that last conversation. Because when the last spring, we didn't ask for it. The legislator came in and said, hey, we see districts are hurting because of X, Y, or Z. They put that little bump in there. Those that locked in at that previous threshold are now having to go out and ask for that additional piece right now. So they're having to go out to their voters and ask for those pieces right now, to where we'd already had the approval. They gave it to us at that piece. So, I mean, that's the one risk you run. But I'm not telling you it's a bad thing. I mean, that truly what you're saying, option scenario 1 is more truth in advertising. You can take to your community and say, that's what it is, and it's not going to change.
Until you have to ask for more. It was at 3:30.
It seems like the best business decision is to run it at the 330, if we can get the approval.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if, God forbid if it, you know, we don't, not successful, we might have to reevaluate that.
Yeah. I think how do you guys feel about that?
I'm comfortable with scenario 3.
Me too.
Okay, so maintain the current levy rate, ask for the same piece, moving out. Okay. All right, we'll come back with resolutions of this next month.
So the resolution, could there be wording in the resolution that speaks to the difference and how that might be used? I mean, make that part of the, I don't know, I don't remember what the last one, how it read.
I will tell you, I don't believe, I mean, there are very strict rules, laws, down to the number of characters you have in these levy resolutions. I'll ask the question, but the lawyers actually, we don't even produce those. We have attorneys that actually produce these resolutions because they're so specific to the number of characters and even the words that are allowed to be in there, because they become part of the voter's pamphlet and those pieces. So you have to be very careful with that. I'll have to ask.
It's another effort for transparency kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Just consensus, that's all you're after?
Yep.
Okay, I think you got it.
Got it. Okay, board calendar review, WASDA conference. I'll come back with information from the WASDA conference. I'll have the resolutions for you next month, and you'll be able to hear out Dana on our transportation. We've already got a quote on buses we're starting to look at for that next trip bus. So we'll have some information for you on that.
Anything further for the good of the board? Okay, we're adjourned.
About-
Oh, I'm sorry. I gotta go back. Andrew, you're gonna say anything? Sorry. Thad, we just finished 2, but I never finished 3. I'm sorry. Okay, can I quickly get to, thank you. The next part on this is the tech levy, okay? So tech levy is the opposite, has no determining factor in the enrollment, so it's a fixed number. This is why it's text, I don't wanna say it's easier, but it's easier to read and see. You can see how many years ago, 3 years before that, that number used to say 325, right? And then it was decided later, we ran that next levy. We need to maintain, the cost of doing business, things, whether it's Chromebooks, the infrastructure, things like that, that bumped up to 375. It went up from 375, last time we decided to make it 425. So there's no enrollment factor or anything on this. We asked for a specific rate, this one's pretty clean. So right now, all 3 projections I have run at 425. That's if we maintain. Again, we can adjust that. If we feel like we need to up that, Andrew and I have had preliminary conversations about what that could and might look like. Just with the idea of that same Chromebook 10 years ago isn't the same cost of that Chromebook now, right? That same firewall protection 10 years ago was not, the same. If we were to maintain business, we'd run it at 425. If you want to maintain the same ratio, you'd be looking at, 475? Or if you want to look at like what we did with the levy, somewhere in the middle, you're looking at about a 450. Andrew, do you want to make a case on anything? I asked him to come tonight, so in case, because I thought you might ask, what's the need and what's that look like? So, go ahead, Andrew.
Just throwing some numbers out, but also just acknowledging again, anytime I get to talk about the levy, acknowledging the support from the Burbank community has just been amazing over all these years. And thinking of them as we go through this and making sure every dollar counts and every dollar is going to, provide technology for kids and making sure that we're staying ahead of the game, making sure that we're keeping our kids safe, making sure that our data is secure, and making sure our infrastructure is up to date so we can conduct business, because so much rides now on the technology infrastructure. When I look and chart out all of the projects and everything that we do here, the year 2029 really sticks out in my head as being kind of a higher cost year. And the first thing in my mind is our phone system. It's going to be approaching, it's 9 years old now. It'll be, about 12 years old when we get to that point. Support is being pulled from the phone system. Security support's being pulled. And so we could be looking at about $100K in that time frame to do a replacement on that. So at a minimum, to anticipate that, to be ready for that, I was looking at maybe a bump of the 25, which would be half of what we've done in the past. Usually it's about a $50,000 jump when we go out to ask. But if we did half that, and did a 25, we could be positioning ourselves for that 2029 year with the existing funds and everything as we move towards that date. Additionally, we also have, if we wanted to go even higher up to the 50, we also have additional concerns about the Chromebooks themselves. Again, they're a little bit higher cost now than what they were. And so that might be an extra $15K stretched over the course of those 4 years. So that might be an ask of, maybe it's 40 every year. That might be a little too much. But, I want to be, thinking of the people and the tax rate, and what could we do minimally. I would say the phone system would be the most important thing, and then we would up it with the Chromebooks, and if we want to do the full 50K, then we add in extra projects, as we talked about before, where we're talking about the either door security or camera upgrades there. Depends on what kind of projects are we going to be tackling in the next 4 years. So I think a 25K jump would be something to consider, again, in that middle range. I don't know where the rate would go. I know that it was reading at somewhere around 30 cents, 31 cents in one chart. I don't know if it would go back up to the 34 cents if you bumped it up a bit. I think what Corey would have to run some numbers.
Yeah, Corey would run some numbers, but keep in mind, you're still looking at, I mean, it wouldn't go straight at that much, because you look at the assessed value, you're going from 1.38 million to 1.421 million on that. So really the rates, not, I mean, if you're going up 25, it may go up pretty slightly. I don't anticipate it going up that much, though. Just the difference in the assessed value.
When did we go 1-to-1? That was 21, wasn't it?
Somewhere, we began that in 2019.
We got ahead of it because we were able to start early, but we didn't
So-
have knowledge of a pandemic, so.
I was hired in 2018. 2019, we began, that first year I talked to Andrew. And literally, again, sometimes better lucky than good, we started our rollout of that 1-to-1 prior to the pandemic, and we just happened to have that, so.
I believe we've really got to invest in this area. I wouldn't be opposed to the 50 grand increase. I mean, we all know what the cost to do business has done in the last 5-6 years.
Could you maybe shoot it to us and see what the rate per thousand is on that with the increase in property? Because I'm wondering if it's not going to be pretty minimal, right?
I think you're right, that's what I'm saying. When I look at it, I'm not Corey, but I could tell you, 25, I don't think you'd notice hardly at all. The 50, you'll notice a little bit, but I don't think it's gonna be drastic. You notice a few cents.
The community has been very supportive of this rationale in the past.
Reminder, the last levy we passed was around the mid-50s, 55%, when the tech levy got 65. So they passed it at an even higher percent than the levy.
Also be fine with the 50.
Yeah, you can send us the number. I'm gonna try to figure it out here real quick. Multiple things there.
I could come back with you with a number at 25 and 50. If that's helpful.
Yeah, I think we need to increase the budget. At least 25, but I think 50 is kind of on pace with what we've done in the past, and
Yeah.
knowing what the
The language will be similar, it's just the number that we do is 25. So
Yeah.
I think on this one, cut the stagnant number, we can probably come back with 2 on that one. So. And you'll have a chance to I'll look at the total tax rate and show you all that information as well. With the updated, because I didn't have that first EP&O scenario for you as well either, so I felt like I owe it to you to get that total tax rate to you, all those pieces.
Good.
Glad you good with that? I'll come back to you with both of that, 25 and 50. That one will just require a decision. We able to pull it off?
I think I'm hearing everybody say that we need to invest.
Yeah. I was curious if you actually got the number, if you was able to work.
I think I got 30 points, or .3079 on his, to match, I'm sure his number's rounded,
Okay.
so.
7, 9, okay. All right, now, that being said, Got the board calendar review. And now, sorry about that, the false started.
We're adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything? Anything?
Want me to say anything?
No,
I'm just here.
I know you could have, yeah, anything?
It's fascinating.
Oh, hold on one second.